All right, so today we're going to be diving into this pretty complex world of conspiracy
Oh,
theories.
yeah.
You sent us some excerpts from a book called Escaping the Rabbit Hole
Right.
by Mick West. And he runs this really cool website, Metabunk,
Yeah.
which is all about debunking
Yeah.
different conspiracy theories.
Right.
So it seems like you're interested in a couple different things. Like one, why people fall for these theories in the first place. Two, the harm that they can actually cause.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe three, how we can help people kind of get out of that world of belief.
Yeah. What I find really interesting about West's approach is that he doesn't just write off conspiracy theorists as, like completely irrational or anything like that. He
Right.
really tries to delve into like what is the psychology behind it.
Mm.
And he uses a lot of really compelling real life examples to kind of illustrate how these beliefs can actually take hold.
Yeah, he uses this phrase, falling down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what he means by that?
Yeah.
It seems like it's more than just, believing in one specific theory.
Yeah, for sure. So he describes it as this like really intense immersion into this world
Okay.
of, these books and these websites and these YouTube videos,
Uh-huh.
all claiming to reveal some hidden truth
Yeah.
about the world. And it becomes this all-consuming thing
Right.
that takes over people's lives, that can really damage their relationships,
Yeah.
with people who aren't
Right.
also down that rabbit hole.
It's not just about the belief. It's about how it impacts your whole life.
Exactly. And that's where I think
Yeah.
the real danger lies.
Okay.
He argues that, these theories, they can have some really serious consequences,
Mhm.
not just for the individual,
Right.
but for society as a whole.
And he uses some pretty stark examples of that.
He does. He brings up Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber,
Right.
and Tamerlan Tsarnaev, who was one of the Boston Marathon bombers,
Right.
both of whom were really heavily influenced by conspiracy theories.
Right.
So you see these tragic examples of how these beliefs can really manifest
Yep.
in very real and harmful ways.
It's a good reminder that it's not just some sort of intellectual curiosity.
Right.
This is something that can have real-world implications.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting is that despite all this, West doesn't think that it's impossible for people to get out of this
Right.
rabbit hole.
He offers a lot of really hopeful stories of
Yeah.
people who've actually managed to leave behind,
Mm-hmm.
their belief in these various theories. One that stands out to me is the story of this guy named Willie,
Okay.
who was a big believer in the chemtrails conspiracy theory.
For 9 years.
Yeah, 9 years. That's a long time to be down that particular rabbit hole.
Right. So how did he finally get out of it?
It's interesting. It was actually a photo of what he thought were chemtrail tanks
Okay.
on a plane, which is something that people in that community will often point to as proof.
Okay.
But what Wes explains is that this photo is actually just showing water ballast barrels
Got it.
that they use on test flights to simulate, the weight of passengers.
Yep.
And when Willie stumbled across that information online, it was like a light bulb moment for him
Right.
because he realized that what he thought was concrete proof
Right.
actually had this perfectly rational explanation.
Yeah, it just shows that even stuff that might seem like really compelling evidence
Yeah.
often has these really straightforward
Right.
explanations that people might not be aware of.
Totally. And it highlights the need for this, critical thinking.
Yeah.
And Wes goes on to talk about how our brains are wired in certain ways that can make us more susceptible to these kinds of beliefs.
Okay.
He talks about things like confirmation bias,
Right.
where we tend to, gravitate towards information
Yeah.
that confirms our existing beliefs, even if that information isn't necessarily accurate.
So it's not always about, malicious intent or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's just that people's brains are kind of working against them in some ways.
It makes you think, are we all susceptible
Yeah.
to this kind of thinking?
Maybe to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I think we all have our biases, right?
Yes, yeah.
It's that self-awareness thing
Exactly.
that's so important.
Totally.
So we don't go tumbling down these rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But why do people fall for these things in the first place?
Well, Wes goes into a few psychological factors.
Okay.
He says that, some people are just drawn to that feeling
Yeah.
of being unique. Like
Yeah.
they have some special knowledge
Oh, yeah.
that other people don't have.
Like they're in the know.
Exactly. That I know something you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be really enticing to some people.
I get it. I get it.
And then there's also this desire for certainty
Yeah.
in a world that can often feel very chaotic and unpredictable.
Right.
Conspiracy theories offer these really simple explanations,
Yeah.
clear-cut, good guys, bad guys, and that can be very comforting.
Yeah.
even if it's completely fabricated.
It's like wanting a neat and tidy story,
Totally.
even if it's made up.
Yeah.
And West really emphasizes that. Once you're kind of down that rabbit hole,
Mm-hmm.
it's incredibly difficult to get back out.
It is. Because it's not just a belief at that point. It's
Yeah.
like their whole worldview
Right.
becomes intertwined
Yeah.
with these theories.
So then how do you even start to help someone in that situation?
Well, West has a lot of experience with this through his work with Metabunk,
Okay.
and he stresses the importance of a few things.
Mm-hmm.
1, honesty.
Okay.
2, openness.
Okay.
And 3, a whole lot of patience.
Right.
Because you're not trying to win an argument here. You're
Right.
trying to really understand where this person is coming from.
So it's like this balance of empathy, but also challenging their thinking.
Exactly. He even suggests trying to figure out their demarcation line,
Demarcation line.
which is essentially the boundary between the theories that they're willing to accept
Got
and
it.
the ones that they dismiss as just crazy.
Okay.
So finding that point on the spectrum
Yeah.
where they're still open
Right.
to considering alternative explanations.
That's fascinating. So how does technology kind of play into all this?
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
It feels like the internet and social media have played a big role
Yeah.
in both the spread of these theories,
Of course.
but then also maybe the debunking of them as well.
Absolutely. He talks about how platforms like Facebook and YouTube,
Right.
on the one hand, they're great for connecting people,
Yeah.
but they can also create these echo chambers
Mm-hmm.
where people are only exposed to information that reinforces their existing beliefs.
No matter how outlandish they are.
Exactly. And then the way that these algorithms are designed,
Right.
they prioritize engagement.
Yeah.
So the more that something triggers a strong emotion,
Like fear or outrage.
yeah, the more likely it is to be seen and shared. Right. So it creates like a perfect storm
It really does.
for these things to spread.
Yeah.
So how do we combat that?
Well, he talks about a number of different efforts.
Okay.
Things like fact-checking initiatives,
Mm-hmm.
media literacy programs,
Right.
even using AI to try to flag false content.
Okay.
But he also emphasizes individual responsibility.
What do you mean by that?
He says we all have a role to play
Yeah.
in creating a more informed and critical thinking society.
So being careful about what we're consuming ourselves.
Yeah.
And also what we're sharing, being a little more discerning
Absolutely.
about what we're seeing online.
It's not just accepting anything that pops up in our feed.
So it's not just about debunking these individual theories. It's about creating like a culture of critical thinking
Totally.
that helps us all kind of navigate this world.
Yeah. And he talks about this idea of a conspiracy spectrum,
The conspiracy spectrum.
which I think is fascinating in terms of understanding
Yeah.
where someone might be
Okay.
on their journey with these beliefs.
That sounds really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
This conspiracy spectrum and how it plays a role in, understanding and maybe even helping someone
Absolutely.
who's gone down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah, so West argues that, not all conspiracy theories are created equal. Some are way more out there than others.
Yeah.
And people have different levels of, how susceptible they are
Okay.
to these different beliefs. And he calls this the conspiracy spectrum.
So like a range of how willing somebody is to believe,
Exactly.
from those who question everything
Yeah.
to those who just accept any alternative explanation.
Right. And the term he uses is demarcation line.
Demarcation line. Okay.
And this refers to where someone draws the line
Got it.
between what they see as reasonable
Okay.
and what they see as silly or just disinformation.
So how does that play out in real life? Can you give us an example?
Yeah, totally. So imagine two people.
Okay.
One person might believe in government cover-ups, like UFOs,
Okay.
but they think the Earth being flat is ridiculous.
Right.
That's their demarcation line.
Got it.
But then you have another person who believes in both of those things.
Right.
Plus a bunch of other even wilder theories, and they're further along on that spectrum.
Okay. So how do you figure out where someone's demarcation line is?
Yeah.
It seems pretty important if you want to have a productive conversation with them.
It's really about listening carefully
Okay.
and observing what types of theories do they accept?
Right.
What kind of evidence do they present?
Yeah.
What are the arguments that they make? You're really looking for common ground, some point of agreement to kind of build that trust and open up a dialogue.
So less about attacking their beliefs head on.
Right.
And more about trying to understand how their thinking works.
Yeah. Exactly.
That seems really tricky.
It can be.
Yeah.
And West tells this really interesting story about a guy named Bob
Okay.
who got caught up in the flat Earth theory.
Okay.
And it really highlights, like, how complicated these situations can get,
Right.
especially when, like, family is involved.
Oh, wow. So can you tell us more about Bob and how his story relates to this idea of the conspiracy spectrum?
Yeah, so Bob's journey kind of started innocently enough.
Right.
He saw this video online, right?
Yeah.
That presented all this evidence
Mm-hmm.
that supposedly disproved a spherical Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, a lot of these theories kind of play on our intuitions, you know?
Yeah.
Thinking about living on this giant ball hurtling through space.
Right.
When you first hear it, it does sound kind of crazy.
Yeah, I could see how that would make people more open
Yeah.
to alternative explanation.
And that's where all these, like, misleading images and misinterpretations of
Yeah.
scientific data and cherry-picked information. In these videos, it all comes in, you know? They try to build a case that sounds convincing.
Yeah.
But then when you really look at it closely, it falls apart.
So again, not necessarily intentional deceit,
Right.
but more about exploiting that human desire for a simple explanation,
Yeah,
even if it's not true.
totally.
And what made Bob's situation even more complicated was that some of his family members also got sucked into this.
Oh, no. So he's not only grappling with these beliefs himself, he's
Mhm.
dealing with people he cares about,
Exactly.
going down the same path.
It really strained his relationship.
I bet. I mean, how do you even have a conversation with someone you love about that?
I know.
Like, knowing that they're basing their whole reality on this stuff.
Right. And knowing that, like, anything you say could be seen as, like, an attack.
Yeah.
Or like you're part of the conspiracy or
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
So it's a really tough situation.
So how did he break free?
It's interesting. His turning point came when he started questioning the community itself.
He noticed that a lot of the prominent figures in the Flat Earth movement were also promoting all these other, even more outlandish conspiracy theories.
wow.
So it was like he had to decide
Yeah.
how far down the rabbit hole he was willing to go.
And that was his, like, limit?
Yeah, for him, that was it.
Okay.
He realized that it wasn't just about the shape of the Earth anymore. It was
Right.
about, like, rejecting science and reason altogether.
Right.
And he knew that his demarcation line was somewhere back up the spectrum.
It's fascinating how someone can step back like that and actually reevaluate their beliefs.
Yeah.
Was it a gradual thing for him?
Westis describes it as, like, a process of disillusionment.
Okay.
You know, he started to see the inconsistencies, the
Yes.
hypocrisy, the lack of evidence.
Yeah.
And it kind of scared him, you know?
Like seeing the cracks in the facade,
Yeah.
and then that makes you question the whole thing.
And that questioning,
Yeah.
that willingness to, like, confront those uncomfortable truths,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's often, like, the first step.
Yeah. Towards escaping the rabbit hole.
Bob's story just really emphasizes how important critical thinking is.
Right.
Especially online,
Oh, yeah.
where it's easy to get swept up in these narratives that sound convincing.
Right, because they're often presented with, like, scientific-sounding language
Yeah.
and evidence.
You have to be so vigilant, you know,
Absolutely.
and always question the information that you're seeing.
Yeah, because it's easy to just take it at face value.
Right.
Especially if it's something that, like, confirms your existing beliefs or,
Right.
feeds into your fears or something.
And West's book goes even deeper into that, right? It's not just about debunking specific theories.
Right.
It's about giving people those skills
Yeah, those tools.
to evaluate information for themselves
Exactly.
and avoid falling prey to this
Right.
misinformation.
It's like he's not just telling you what to think,
Right.
but he's teaching you how to think.
Which is way more valuable
Oh,
because you can apply that to anything. Absolutely. And one of the things he talks about is the role of technology
yeah.
in all of this.
Technology's been, like, both a blessing and a curse
It really has.
when it comes to these theories.
On the one hand, the internet has given these theories this, like, massive platform to spread
Yeah.
and to connect with like-minded individuals.
It's created those echo chambers that we talked about,
Yeah.
where information or misinformation can thrive.
And the algorithms
Yeah.
designed to prioritize engagement over accuracy.
It makes it even worse.
It really does. Because, you know, stuff that triggers strong emotions like
Yeah.
fear or outrage
Yeah.
is going to get more views. It's going to get more shares,
So it's more likely to spread.
even if it's completely made up.
Right.
But on the other hand, technology's also given us tools to combat this.
Right.
You know, you've got websites like Snopes,
Yeah.
and Metabunk,
Right.
that are dedicated to debunking these theories,
Yeah.
providing evidence-based counter-arguments.
And there's a bunch of great YouTube channels, podcasts
Totally.
that are doing great work in this area.
Breaking it down in a way that's accessible and engaging.
And even the social media platforms themselves are starting to take some steps
Right.
to address this, like spread of misinformation.
They're implementing fact-checking,
Yeah.
flagging potentially harmful content,
Right.
promoting authoritative sources.
It's like a digital arms race
It kind of is.
between those spreading the misinformation and those trying to fight it.
But in the end, the most important defense is us.
Right.
It's individual responsibility.
Okay.
We need to be more careful
Yeah.
about the information we consume, what you share.
Right.
And be willing to, like, call each other out.
Hold each other accountable
Exactly.
for spreading this stuff.
Yeah, it's about being more media literate,
Right.
understanding those algorithms, and recognizing the tactics that are being used.
To spread this misinformation.
Yeah, it's about being skeptical without being cynical,
Right.
and being open to new information without being gullible.
Like a tightrope walk.
It is. It's finding that balance.
And this is where West's book is so valuable.
Right.
Because it gives us this framework for critical thinking that can help us all.
In this crazy world of information.
He's not just telling us what to think.
No.
He's telling us how to think.
Which is so much more powerful.
Exactly. And then one of the things he talks about is the motivation of the people who spread this misinformation.
Right.
He says that not all of them are like these malicious actors.
Right. Some people genuinely believe the stuff that they're putting out there.
Even if it's wrong.
Even if it's based on bad information or like misinterpretations or whatever.
And then some people are just more opportunistic.
Totally. They might be using these theories to gain attention or followers or even to make money.
So you always have to consider the source.
Yeah, and their motivation.
And be like, why are they saying this?
Exactly. And that brings us back to like the importance of those critical thinking skills.
Right.
You know, being able to evaluate sources, identify bias, recognize logical fallacies, and weigh the evidence.
I have to be our own fact checkers.
Exactly. And Wes gives us a lot of practical advice on how to actually do that.
In the book,
You know, he talks about checking sources, looking for corroborating evidence, and being aware of those common biases that can, like, trip us up.
So important these days.
Yeah.
With all this misinformation out there.
It feels like we're just bombarded with it.
Right.
Fake news, conspiracy theories. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But the good news is the digital age has also given us, like, really powerful tools to fight back.
Right. We have access to so much information.
Yeah.
You can connect with experts and debunkers.
Turning around the world. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
It's like a digital arms race. Right.
Yeah.
Between those who are trying to spread misinformation.
Right.
And those who are fighting for truth and accuracy.
And it all comes down to individual choices.
Yeah, individual actions.
Like we all have a part to play.
Absolutely. We have to be more discerning about what we consume, what we share, and hold each other accountable for spreading misinformation.
So it's more than just like learning these skills. It's about actually putting them into practice.
It's about being a responsible digital citizen.
Right.
And that's where I think, you know, West's book is so valuable.
It goes beyond the theory.
Right.
Gives us the practical steps.
Practical advice.
So we can take.
And real-world examples.
Yeah.
That we can all relate to.
This has been so helpful.
Oh, good.
Like, I feel like I have actual things that I can do.
Yeah.
To be a better critical thinker.
That's great. And consume information.
Yeah.
More responsibly.
And remember, it's an ongoing process.
It's not just a one-time thing. Yeah.
You know, you got to constantly be questioning and evaluating and refining your understanding of the world.
And recognizing that we all have biases.
We all make mistakes.
And we're allowed to change our minds when presented with new evidence.
It's that willingness to, like, learn and grow that makes us more informed.
Absolutely.
More discerning citizens.
Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive into this world of conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
We've covered so much today.
A lot of ground.
From the psychology of belief to the dangers that they pose.
Right.
And then some strategies to help people kind of get out of that mindset.
And we talked about how technology plays this really important role.
Huge role,
both in spreading these theories and then also in combating them.
But I think the biggest takeaway for me
Yeah.
is this idea of critical thinking in the digital age.
It's so crucial.
Yeah.
Now more than ever.
We have to be careful about what we consume,
Yeah.
aware of our own biases,
Right.
and be willing to, like, challenge our own assumptions
Absolutely.
and the beliefs of those around us.
Yeah. Fostering that culture of, like,
Yeah.
curiosity and skepticism.
And open-mindedness.
Exactly.
It's so important.
It is.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this
Of course.
journey of exploration
It's been my pleasure.
and discovery.
Yeah.
And to all of you listening out there, remember,
Stay curious.
stay curious.
Stay skeptical.
Stay skeptical.
And stay informed.
Stay informed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about critical thinking, but, like, how do you actually do that? Where do you even start?
Well, Wes has a lot of practical advice in the book.
Okay.
And one of the simplest but most important things he says is to start by just being aware of your own biases.
Oh, that's interesting. I think a lot of people think about biases as something that's bad. Like, you have to get rid of them.
It's true that they can lead us astray.
Yeah.
But we all have them, right? They come from our experiences, our upbringing, the people around us.
Right.
We can't be completely neutral.
Okay. So it's not about, like, eliminating bias,
Yeah.
but recognizing that it's there.
Yeah. Being self-aware.
Okay.
Once you realize what your biases are, you can ask yourself, is this affecting how I'm seeing things?
Got it. So self-awareness is the first step.
Yeah.
What else can we do to be more critical thinkers?
Wes talks a lot about the importance of actually seeking out diverse perspectives.
Oh, interesting.
It's so easy to get stuck in an echo chamber where everyone agrees with you.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
Right. But that doesn't challenge you to think critically.
So you're saying we should actively look for information that challenges our views.
Yeah, even if it's uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because when you engage with those different viewpoints, you might find weaknesses in your own arguments.
Oh, I see.
You might learn something new. You might even change your mind.
It's being open to the possibility that you could be wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
That's hard, but I think it's a good lesson.
I think so too.
And, it's not just about who's saying something.
Right.
It's also about how they're saying it.
Exactly.
Like, pay attention to the language.
Yes.
Are they using words meant to make you feel a certain way?
Oh, yeah. All the time.
It's like they're trying to skip your logical brain
Totally.
and just go straight for your emotions.
That's why you have to be skeptical.
Okay.
Especially when something makes you feel really strongly.
Take a step back.
Yeah.
Look at the actual evidence.
And think about other explanations.
Don't just jump to a conclusion.
Right. Don't let your emotions make the decision for you.
Got it. So being aware of your emotions.
And the language being used.
Okay.
Wes also talks about these things called logical fallacies.
Logical fallacies. Okay.
Which are these, like, flaws in reasoning that can make an argument seem really convincing.
Even if it's not.
Yeah, even if the logic is messed up.
So can you give an example of one?
Sure. One that's really common is the ad hominem attack.
Ad hominem.
It's basically attacking the person
Okay.
instead of the actual argument.
Oh, yeah. We see that online all the time.
Right. Like, this person is a jerk, so their idea is bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Dismissing the idea because you don't like the person.
Exactly. And then there's the bandwagon effect.
Bandwagon.
Saying something's true just because a lot of people believe it.
Like everyone's doing it, so it must be okay.
Yeah, but we know that's not how truth works.
Right. Right.
So always demand evidence.
Okay.
And look at the evidence critically. Don't just blindly accept things because they're popular.
Or because you saw it on social media.
Exactly. You have to be your own fact checker.
That's a lot of work.
It is. But Wes gives a lot of good advice
Okay.
about how to do that.
In the book, yeah.
Checking sources, looking for other evidence that supports it, and being aware of those biases we talked about.
This is all so important,
It is.
especially with so much misinformation going around.
Fake news, conspiracy theories, propaganda.
It's everywhere.
It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the good news is we also have more tools than ever
To fight back, right.
to find real information.
Yeah.
We can check sources
We can connect with experts.
from all over the world.
It's kind of amazing.
It is. But it is kind of a digital arms race, you know?
Yeah. Between those who are trying to mislead us and those who are trying to inform us.
And in the end, it comes down to individual choices.
So we all have a role to play
We do. We have to be careful about what we read, what we share.
and hold each other accountable
Exactly.
if we see someone sharing something that's not true.
It's about being responsible,
Yeah.
both for ourselves and for others.
And I think that's really what West's book is all about.
It is. It gives us the tools
To navigate this world.
to be more discerning, more critical.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just about specific theories.
Right.
It's about how we think about information in general.
Exactly.
This has been so helpful.
I'm glad to hear that.
I feel like I have some actual things I can do now
Yeah, you can put these skills into practice.
to be a better critical thinker.
And remember, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, you never stop learning.
You never stop questioning.
You never stop being curious.
Exactly. And you never stop being willing to change your mind.
That's a good point.
It's all part of the journey.
All right, so I think we've reached the end of our deep dive
We have.
into this complex world of conspiracy theories.
It's been quite a journey.
We've explored the psychology behind them
The dangers they pose.
and what we can do to help people who are struggling with them.
And how technology plays a role in all of it,
But I think the most important takeaway for me is the importance of critical thinking.
especially in this digital age.
We need to be careful about what we believe.
Question our assumptions.
Be aware of our biases.
And be willing to change our minds.
Absolutely. And it's something we can all do.
We can all be part of the solution.
Well, on that note, thank you for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay informed.